Bernardi writes, war is an indispensable regulator of populations. If it were not for war, he writes, we would probably find that inferior and degenerate races would overcome healthy and youthful ones. The generative importance of war lies in this, that it causes selection, and thus war becomes a biological necessity. Now, think of the mentality of the man you're dealing with. He does not see you as anything but an enemy. He can't see you as anything but an enemy. Now, there are a few amongst them that are benevolent. They don't know the equation that their own kind is operating under. So they all love the planet and shit. But as Francis Cress told you, it is a biological imperative, a psychosexual dysfunction that drives this man. Now, beloved, if we incorporate and the above information with what Francis Cress and Dr. Finelli Fuller, you get a profound overview of the behavioral physics related to our socio-political and psychocultural pathologies as not only a people, but as an earth-living species sharing this planet. Now listen carefully. If war is a biological necessity according to Bernardi and natural socialism is applied biology according to the Nazi Rudolf Hess, then biological warfare against melanated peoples began in Europe in 1798 with the release of Malthusian principles. Therefore, logic dictates that we study every conceivable way that biology. We have to study biology. We have to know our bodies. Because the war is not physical, it's metaphysical. We have to study the physics, metaphysics, politics, and psychology of biology. Maybe how it may be manipulated and utilized to bring about their desired end. If the goal is biological racial survival and science must become the weapon of choice according to Adolf Just, then it stands to reason that in order to control human biological and spiritual imperatives, you must control the controller of that system. You must control the mind. Now, I did not say the brain. I said the mind. There is a difference. And here it is, we draw the distinction between tangible physics and intangible laws in metaphysics. The brain can be seen and experienced as a tangible, functional component of physics. The mind, on the other hand, an intangible dynamic of focused consciousness, focused light, or qualified intelligence, is actually felt and intuited as a functioning component of metaphysics. Now, for centuries, the European elite and their Yaku scientists have labored to maintain control by manipulating the mind through overt traumatization of the brain. And this has worked thus far, as evidenced by the fact that most of the world's Christians are in countries where melanated peoples are ruthlessly colonized. But the beasthood has read yet another sign of the times. He knows for a fact that trauma-based mind control is virtually obsolete, that we recover, that the total paradigm he created throughout the world with it is collapsing rapidly. This is why his target is no longer just the operations of your brain, but what consolidates the overbrain of the human consciousness matrix. Let me explain. When you control the brain, you control an individual. But when you control the overmind, you control the species. When we speak of mind control as practiced in the past, what was actually done was brain compartmentalization control. Let's get that straight. Brain compartmentalization control. The mind still had the potential to write whatever artificial dysfunctional programs were forced into the brain, evidenced as here. The molecular genetic memory of the cells and the atomic memory of the subparticulate light body you call the soul. Let me say that again. The molecular genetic memory of the cells and the atomic memory of the subparticulate light body you call your soul keeps the archives and the archival instructions of your consciousness species type intact, regardless of the external traumas. The beasthood knows that to control the future, they must dysfunction and subsequently reprogram the collective capabilities of the overmind. To do this, they must dysfunction the translators of the overmind. They must cripple the keepers of the redemption code. They must manipulate and destroy the integrity of your DNA and genetic codes.
That's right.
Now here we get to heavy.
Yes.
Now we're going to kick into light speed. In my video entitled Matrix 3, I talked about the virtualizers. Those who work within the halls of science and medicine, entertainment, education, and the churches of the beasthood. I spoke on the medical church and its ritual practices in the forms of microbiology, biochemistry, genetics, molecular biology, but most important to date, the fields of psychiatry and psychology. I spoke of how the medical and theological beasthood has worked hand in hand to create a culture and to create and cultivate a virtual perceptual construct in order to orchestrate your personal sense of being in reality, where you function and believe that you are that virtual construct. I spoke on how the scientific beasthood can now manipulate your sense of divine self-consciousness by now manipulating the original programming of your archetypal genes. They can do this with the implantation of virtual reality genes, that is, designer genes, that contain artificially embedded conceptual programmings that will override the overmind and dictate to its reality. These genes will limit your scope of what is possible or impossible from within your own biochemical rivers of life, your blood. I spoke of how these virtual genes will dictate to the overall framework of your DNA by reprogramming or remapping the behavior of the molecules and the atoms in the cells. The cells will thus obey a virtual perceptual construct that the beasthood calls truth mapping. This is a literal term in the Human Genome Project, truth mapping. I spoke of how they intend to delete the original species instructions dictated to all biological life from the Hunab Ku, the universal mind. They intend to erase your organic intelligence, the original God codes of your species Merkaba programming, the codes embedded 66 trillion years ago to be used as a map of consciousness to guide you to higher and ever higher thresholds of awareness. I spoke of how everything in your present reality construct is based on a consensus agreement, a psychocultural contract of concepts that have you agreeing to obey, that schools, churches, politics, and the entertainment media describes for you the boundaries of your physical, mental, and spiritual realities. That churches and the beasthood ministries, through psychological guilt peddling, intimidation, lies, extortion, bribery, and the overt theft and blood-sucking of the community's resources, cripple what's left of your God-given reason and intelligence by preaching fear of damnation, theology, attacking, discrediting, and vilifying everything and anyone who does not conform to closed-minded theological fascism. I spoke of how this type of conditioning has caused you to literally physicalize and emotionalize the fear. In other words, fear has become a physical component. And fear has created a dense gray atmosphere that causes you to see the world and yourself in it solely through the circumstances and the chemistries of fear created in your blood. That certain trigger words, certain music, certain light variations, and certain foods, definitely foods, trigger this mutilated chemistry in your blood to kick in and lock down your ability to ascend beyond their archetypal virtual reality construct. Now listen carefully. I had to put that in because you can go home, take it, listen to it, and rerun the tape back and listen to what I'm saying to you, because you can articulate exactly what I'm articulating. You can break it down for yourself. You must understand that the fear you feel, the confusion you sense, the disorientation you experience from time to time, the hopelessness, the self-anger, the hatred, the jealousy, the greed, the insensitivities, the feeling of abandonment, of being lost, all of the so-called diseases you are diagnosed with, all of it is fear. Byproducts of fear. In truth, an unnatural fear. A fear programmed right into you. A fear-programmed world sustained by the chemistries of your own polluted bloodstreams, with all of the toxic garbage you put into your face as food. Through the demonic sciences of fear-based reality manipulation, we have become death-oriented disaster-prone, disease-susceptible organisms. The medical church aggressively promotes the fear-based reality of disease, the fear-based reality of unbearable suffering, and the ultimate reality of a contorting, disease-ridden death if you don't worship at our altars. Because of your fears, you have assigned an almost deific quality in worship to the beasthood of the medical church. They have bestowed an almost godlike quality that is virtually unapproachable by logic and common sense. And just how programmed, hypnotized, and brain dead have we all become to the madness? I'm going to say a few things right here. You look at their Frankensteinian activities with childlike awe and wonder. You celebrate and praise the invention of their stupid gadgets. You seek out their toxic drugs and potions and sing the praises of their manipulative surgeries, their butchery. You stand transfixed and bedazzled when they put the heart of a baboon into the chest of a little girl, a little black girl. When they put a gorilla's brain into a human's head, a human ear onto the back of a rat, a human fetus into the sheep's uterus, insect DNA into a human fetus, the head of a man onto the body of a goat, monkey testicles into a man, monkey ovaries into a woman. What in the hell is wrong with us as a species, as a people, that we would allow this, condone these diabolical rituals? Because that's what these are, demonic rituals. Now, I know Bobby was talking about demons, but see, demonic rituals, by what they have for us and what we know true demonic rituals are, this is it. They have called what we do demonic because they know that if we were to get hip to it, it'd be demonic for them. Can you not see that this is the devil? The beasthood of the Christian church has found in saying, they are fond of saying that the greatest trick that the devil played on man was in convincing man that he didn't exist. That's bullshit. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled on us was in getting us to believe that he was not the father of religion and the God of the Christian church. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was that he was not the father of medical science, that he was not present at the drafting of the Constitution, that he was not present in the courts, that he has not established Hollywood, that he did not construct the education system, that he does not sit on the throne of the Vatican, that there is no such thing as mind control, that he did not orchestrate the drug trade, that he isn't poisoning our air, water, and earth with deadly chemicals, that he is screwing with our genetics, and that he is doing this for all our ultimate good. But the slickest thing the devil ever did to Africans in the diaspora and around the world, the most insidious trick he ever pulled on melanated peoples, was to get us to trust him by forgetting the name of your archetypal Godhead. He got us to trust him by using his other name. With his name, we have been mind-fucked into babbling drones for 500 years. This name became the mantra of comfort and salvation for Negroes, to the exclusion of all other common sense and cultural legacy. The devil played us to the max when he got us to call him Jesus Christ. Now, I know all you closet Christians out there who snuck in here to see if the devil was up on the podium. You see, the ruling beasthood knows who you are and that you are God. There is no discernible God but man. The so-called Jesus of your Bible himself said he was the Son of Man, therefore denoting his origin. How come you didn't get that? I am the Son of Man. He ain't never said he was the Son of God. Man is God inverted, folded over on itself. That is the most difficult thing for most Christianized dark folks to accept. Again, to the European Caucasian, war is a biological necessity for his continued survival and control. The designs of our biology today is based upon what is called the cosmic Merkaba blueprint, programmed into the light code receptors of our overmind. Science tells you that your mind is simply an ambient residual or reflection of biological experiences stored and replayed through the chemical operations of your brain. In other words, the mind comes about solely as a result of electrochemical activities. But they are wrong. In fact, ass backwards is more like it. The mind is in fact the tabernacle of the knower. The brain is the tabernacle of the thinker, and the body is the tabernacle of the doer. I got so much shit here for you, boy, I could be here all day. This is important, even vital to us to understand from the very beginning, because the beasthood and the adversary knows this. To truly control humanity, you must control all three. The beasthood has evolved its sciences to expertly co-opt and colonize the biopsychic terrain that exists between the doer and the thinker. Now, how do they do this? Microelectronic mechanical systems, MEMS. If you have been following the HARP and Mazers, the technology, their connection to mind control has been demonstrated. MEMS are micro machines with pumps, regulators, distributors. Micro machines with pumps, regulators, and distributors, releasing certain chemicals into the bloodstream and or to induce certain chemical reactions. Now, on the reverse side, medically, this could be a help. Now, they say medically, this could be a help for people with I say, what? Diabetes. It gives you insulin. Now, with that being implanted in you, signals from the mesa, which has a monochromatic wavelength, can be picked up by the receiver in these chips and then signaled to the MEMS devices, which would release certain chemicals in the bloodstream, thus altering the individual's personality. See that beeper? Signals can trigger the MEMS to release chemicals on a microscopic level into your bloodstream to divert and change your thinking patterns. The technology to make these biochips uses X-ray lithographic or X-ray lithographic processes, which has the beginning of the new generation of superchips. Now you got to listen to this very carefully. It's called Silent Sounds and the Supercomputer. Listen very carefully, brothers and sisters, because this devil has learned to manipulate the ether. Now, this was written in response to a CIA program, the CIA MEMS program. Now, this mind-altering mechanism is based on a subliminal carrier technology. It's called the Silent Sound Spread Spectrum, or SSSS. It is sometimes called S-Quad, Q-U-A-D, for 4 S's, or squad. It was developed by Dr. Oliver Lowry of Norcross, Georgia. And its function is described in U.S. Patent number 5159-703. Silent subliminal presentation systems. Silent subliminal presentation systems, dated October 27, 1992. The abstract for the patent reads as follows. Now you listen to the scientific legalese and try to decipher what it is we're seeing. All right? I'm going to read this, and then I know brother wants me to go to a break. You don't have the right. Check this out. This is your squad system, a silent communication system in which non-oral carriers in a very low or high frequency audio frequency range, or in the adjunct ultrasonic frequency spectrum, are amplitude or frequency modulated with the desired intelligence and propagated acoustically or vibrationally for the induction into the brain, typically through the use of loudspeakers, earphones, or piezoelectric transducers. The modulated carriers may be transmitted directly in real time or may be conveniently recorded and stored on mechanical, magnetic, or optical media for delayed or repeated transmission to the listener. Listen carefully. Now, according to the literature put out by an organization called Silent Sounds Incorporated, you don't need to look them up on the internet, it is now possible using supercomputers to analyze human emotions, to put them into an EEG pattern, and to replicate them. Store them in these emotional signature clusters on another computer and at will silently induce and change the emotional state of a human being. Now, you see, I'm just giving you the surface now because we haven't really gotten into where they're going to affect and how they're going to affect. They can broadcast an emotion to you in crowds, change the chemical according to the signal that was broadcasted, and you begin to pick up the signal of somebody in fear, in anger, in jealousy. Now, according to the literature, put out by the organization called Silent Spring, they stated that it is interested only in the positive emotions. But why? See, this is not just a regular project by some independent scientists. This is a military project. Edward Tilden, president of Silent Sounds Incorporated, says in a letter about Squad dated back in December 13, 1996, all schematics, however, have been classified by the U.S. government, and we are not allowed to reveal the exact details. We make tapes and CDs for the German government, even the former Soviet Union countries, all with the permission of the United States State Department. The system was used throughout Operation Desert Storm quite successfully. Now, you know when they talk that shit about Desert Storm, they were saying all the Iraqi soldiers saying, oh, please, it's good. Why? The graphic illustration called, check it out, in the graphics, they have a part called Induced Alpha to Theta Biofeedback. Now, theta waves come up on modulations, on oscillators, as the number 666. All right, now, the graphic illustration called Induced Alpha to Theta Biofeedback Cluster Movement, which accompanies the literature, is labeled AB116-39495, unclassified, and is an output from the most versatile and most sensitive electroencephalographic machine. It has a gain capability of 200,000 as compared to other EEGs, which is only 50,000. It is software driven by the fastest computers using a noise nullifying technology similar to that used by nuclear submarines for detecting small objects underwater at extreme ranges. The purpose of all this high frequency, high technology is to plot and display, check it, is to plot and display a moving cluster of periodic brainwave signals. The illustration shows an EEG display from a single individual taken from left to right hemispheres simultaneously. The readout from the two sides of the brain appear to be quite different, but are in fact the same. Now, by using these computer-enhanced EEGs, scientists can identify and isolate the brain's low amplitude emotion signature clusters. I'm saying this because when I get to this part 2, you will understand that the technology exists and that this war is now metaphysical. It is not physical. We can get the gun, but they got other things metaphysically working that would make you even not be able to pull the trigger. Listen carefully. Low amplitude emotion signature clusters. They can synthesize them and store them in another computer. In other words, by studying the subtle characteristic brainwave patterns that occur when a subject experiences a particular emotion like fear, scientists have been able to identify the concomitant brainwave pattern and now can duplicate it. These clusters are then placed on a silent sound carrier frequency and then silently trigger the occurrence of the same basic emotion in another human being. There is a lot more involved here than just subliminal sound systems. There are numerous pattern technologies. Now check this. With that capability, they have numerous pattern technologies that could be piggybacking on that. There appear to be two methods of delivery with this system. One is direct microwave induction into the brain, subject of the brain, and microwave is what they're using for that particular thing you got hanging on your finger. It gets all your HBO. into the brain of the subject, which is limited to short-range operations. The other, described above, is using ordinary radio and television carrier frequencies. In more conventional uses, the use of the silent sound subliminal system might utilize voice commands added to security systems. That's what that brother Brian Wrong that we introduced had the chips in his head, was hearing voices. They can cast voices and they can acoustically, through ambient technology, make you think you're thinking your thoughts. Now, in all the other videos, I keep telling you that the science of thought is necessary for you to understand, and why you have to understand your own spiritual self, because then you can recognize that you are not thinking thought, that thought is thinking you. And when thought starts thinking you, you start doing all the crazy shit that most of the niggas is out here doing. Most of the stuff that we as black men are doing. Most of the stuff that black women are doing. This is not an accident. And when we get into the foods and where the poisons are in the foods, y'all get your pads out, because I'm going to tell you which foods are toxic and which is the ones that they're using to deconstruct the integrity of your genes, so it's easy to put those designer genes in your brain. Well, check it out now. Beneath the musical broadcast that you hear in stored and in shopping malls are hidden messages telling you silently, don't steal. You don't hear it. But one voice commands are placed on subliminal presentation systems along with cloned emotional signatures. Could you imagine? They are cloning emotional signatures, and then they're putting voice commands on the emotional signatures and broadcasting it to your brain. At this time, I want you to, if you want to, come over, and we'll come back in about maybe 20, 25 minutes, and we will continue this. Have pens and paper. If you got to run out and get yourself a pad and pen, get it. Thank you. Thank you.
TJ had to go back. She left that note right.
You shouldn't come. Look at what they did. They excluded women, you see?